All right, let's talk about the tight ends. And man, I mean, tight ends, it's always just it feels like a naked position in general. And then now, obviously, no Kittle, no Kelsey because the Chiefs are on bye. The second week with no Kelsey, so it's a sad position. We have Mark Andrews at the top, Logan Thomas, and Jared Cook number three, but a big gap between Mark Andrews and basically everyone else. Sean, who are you high on this week?
Yeah, like you said, no Kelsey, Kittle, or Waller. So, Mark Andrews sticks out a ton at only 5,200. I think he's in a smash spot here with that pricing. But you always take this guy. I'm going to take him this week. It's Cole Komet at 3K. Um, this week he feels like a free square if you want to spend down at tight end. The Saints are a very good defense, but they can be prone to some pretty good games to opposing tight ends. So Komet's he's been holding pretty steady around a 75% routes run rate. He finally saw a huge target share last week with 8. This could be a pass heavy game script, so I love him here. It's worth monitoring Darnell Mooney, who saw 13 targets last week. He looks like he's going to be iffy. You have to imagine if he's out, that could just mean an extra couple targets for Komet as well. So just at 3K, he just has a really, really high floor for tight end at that price range. And, I think he's due for a touchdown. So he has a pretty high ceiling as well. So if you're not going to take Mark Andrews at his price, I think you got to go Komet here.
Yeah, I mean, no surprise. I agree with you. Komet's the guy, my BFF, the guy I talk about every week in this spot, and you outlined it perfectly. Yeah, Mooney is uncertain to play this week, and we have a tight end who's emerging who already has an 18% target share on the team over the past month. And if Mooney is out, I would expect that to increase. He's playing over 90% of the snaps, has 14 targets over the past 2 weeks, playing indoors in what could be a high scoring environment as a big dog. So you would think that he maybe benefits from a pass heavy game script. 100% with you on Cole Komet. If you are not paying up, Komet, I think, is probably the guy that you target when you are paying down. Rayvon, it seems like you might disagree.
Oh yeah, I got to go against you guys here. For one, New Orleans is number 2 in DVOA against tight ends. They've been excellent against the position. And look at Komet. I mean, and listen, I've been on Komet. But you look at as many routes as he's been running, he hasn't really done much with them over these past few weeks. And Jimmy Graham, a couple of those games has been the more productive guy. I just don't know if we're going to get that game against the New Orleans number 2 tight end defense. I would say that if you're looking to pay down, I think the play is Jonnu Smith. Last week he ran a route on 25 of 31 dropbacks. That's 81%. He's been in 70 or greater over these past few weeks, where he was usually in the 60s or 50s for most of the season. In a must-win game, I think Jonnu, just because of the touchdown equity you get with Ryan Tannehill, the total for the game, which is the highest on the slate. We know tight ends are a crapshoot, period. So I just think you go with the guy that's running routes for a team you expect to score a lot of points, and he's only $200 more on DraftKings at 3,200 than Komet. So I really like him in that low price range. But in terms of the high end guys, I think Andrews and Thomas are both in a tier of themselves. I don't even think Andrews has that much separation, because you look at Andrews, the Titans are number 32 in DVOA against tight ends. So that's obviously a great matchup. We don't expect much pressure. We don't expect him to have to chip or do anything of that nature. He's just going to straight run routes. And then Logan Thomas, I mean, you mentioned, the Bucs cornerbacks are still pretty good. I think they focus on Terry McLaurin, and Logan Thomas has been that guy. I mean, made a great touchdown catch last week. And you have a great matchup here too. Tampa Bay number 25 in DVOA against tight ends. Versus number 1, wide receivers are 6, number 2s they're 22, number 3 others they're 1, and running backs they're 6. So tight ends is clearly their weakest position to defend. So love Thomas and Andrews, but I go with Jonnu on the 1-1.
Raybon, you mentioned Logan Thomas here. I don't know, have either of you guys seen Brandon Thorne, kind of offensive line, defensive line, analytical expert when it just comes to analyzing the play there? He tweeted out something about Logan Thomas, where Logan Thomas chips a pass rusher who falls down and knocks over another pass rusher, and then that guy knocks out a third pass rusher. Like Logan Thomas's chip took out literally 3 defensive players, and then he went out and ran a route and caught the ball and got a first down. Like play of the game, very subtle. But yeah, Logan Thomas, I kind of want to back up for a second and get bigger picture because, 2 years ago, Darren Waller was someone who was getting some hype in the preseason as a guy who might come out of nowhere at the tight end position. And he certainly did. And Logan Thomas was kind of that guy this year, not to the same extent. And, so he wasn't hyped as much. And obviously he hasn't done this year what Darren Waller did last year. But if there is a Darren Waller to this season, I think it probably is Logan Thomas, just in terms of a guy who's kind of come out of nowhere, especially kind of thinking of a guy who, transitioned into the tight end position. What do you guys think of Logan Thomas and what he's actually done? Like, is he a good player? Is this projectable to the future? What do you think we see out of Logan Thomas in fantasy for 2021, Sean?
Yeah, absolutely. He's going to turn 30 next year. So in dynasty leagues, I wouldn't really give up the farm for him, but I think he'll be pretty solid going forward. One of the most consistent things with him is just his routes run. He's usually running a routes run rate at like 95 to 100% every week, which is just it gives him a massive floor. So that's been good to see. But yeah, I think Alex Smith as quarterback tends to help. Like I mentioned earlier, he tends to target guys like McKissick and Logan Thomas at a high rate, as opposed to a guy like Terry McLaurin. So I think just all the factors lined up for Thomas this year. Next year, I think he'll probably be a low end tight end one, but we'll kind of have to see how things sort out. But certainly for the next couple seasons, he should be a tight end one caliber kind of guy.
Raybon, what do you think about Logan Thomas?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think he's a good football player. It's kind of crazy to think because he made a position switch, but as you mentioned, we've seen that with Waller and Thomas. I think is he's kind of mastered the full spectrum of playing the tight end position. I think it was a couple of weeks ago. I believe it was Troy Aikman. It might have been somebody else, but was just kind of gushing about how good a player Logan Thomas had become. And it was like to the point it was weird because Thomas hadn't done anything in the game yet. But no, he's I think the only thing holding him back really at this point is how good is Washington's defense going to be going forward? Because this is a guy that, he's running a route on 100, like almost 100% of the snaps. And so it really just comes down to, okay, how many routes is Washington going to have available? Because this guy is going to play. He's making plays. He's making plays in the red zone. He's showing he can be a high volume receiver, and they don't have to take him out for blocking purposes. So I really do like him. I hope that, Washington doesn't get like this super elite Pittsburgh style defense to where they don't throw the ball for the next couple of years. But as a player, I think low end tight end one is probably his floor. And if Washington's defense goes bad, he can definitely put up a top 5 season.
Okay, Raybon, earlier you talked about Comet and being low on him. Sean, who is a tight end that you are low on this week?
I'm low on Jared Cook this week, especially at his price point, 4,600. Now, he's been the tight end 5 over the final 5 weeks of the season, but, that's going to change with Michael Thomas potentially coming back, Alvin Kamara as well. So I think his target share is going to go way down. He's going to become way more touchdown dependent. So he's a guy that, he makes sense in GPPs if you want to just take a flyer based on upside. He certainly still possesses that upside. But the guy that we were just talking about, Logan Thomas, is just a few $100s more than Jared Cook. So in any kind of cash game format, I would lean towards Logan Thomas. But just with, Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara coming back this week, Jared Cook is a full fade for me here.
Okay, I am low on Austin Hooper. And by the way, Sean, agree with you on Jared Cook. I'm low on Austin Hooper. I have him ranked number 7 going against the Steelers, who are number 1 in pass defense DVOA against tight ends. And with all the other options on the team, I don't think there's really much of a need to pepper Hooper with targets. An outdoors game between divisional rivals might be a lower scoring game. So off of Austin Hooper for wild card weekend. Sean, give us the tight end prop.
Let's go with Mark Andrews. I have him ranked really, really high, but I want to hear your guys' thoughts on his receiving yards He's been a lot more consistent this season in general, but especially since Nick Boyle went out. He's gone for over 65 yards in 4 of the 5 games since Boyle's injury. So he has a pretty high floor now. I have his receiving yards set at 63.5 yards.
I'm on the over, and like disgustingly so on the over. Like I have him at 77.5 yards, which feels way too high, but he has a 38% target share over the past 4 games. I mean, he's the number 1 receiver on that team right now, and it's really not even close. So yeah, I'm taking the over there.
Yeah, that's an over for me too. Number 1, you look at his routes run per dropback, 20 out of 24 last week. And ever since Bowie went out, it's been in the low 70s or high 80s. And that was just something we haven't seen from Mark Andrews pretty much his entire career. He would usually top out in the mid 70s. So for him to be up there, that's why we're seeing this increased consistency. That's why we're seeing, more yardage. So love him to have another big game. And then you throw in the fact that Tennessee is dead last in DVOA against the tight end position, and you look at their receiving yards schedule adjusted per game, just to the normal tight end, they're giving up 54 schedule adjusted. So Mark Andrews is one of the top guys, so that easily can get another 10-15 yards to get over that line.
Yeah. So I was wrong. I said 38% target share. It's 33% target share over the past month for Mark Andrews, a team high 38% share of the air yards. So not just being targeted, but being targeted further downfield, which against a defense, Raybon, that you pointed out has been really bad against tight ends this year. I see a ton of upside for Andrews. So I'm taking the over there. Sean, given that Raybon and I are both on the over, are you adjusting the line at all, or are you sticking with it?
Yeah, I kind of set it up that I do like the over on that line. I was just curious where you guys are, because I think Andrews sticks out at his price. So if you guys are even higher, maybe you guys are just way higher on Logan Thomas than I am, but I think where you guys have Andrews projected makes sense. And just, at his price point, he just seems like a free square for the slate.
Well, I mean, so I think early we were talking about like going towards Thomas over, what was it, Jared Cook at Cash? Like, I wouldn't even touch Thomas in Cash. I think it has to be Mark Andrews, given that there's only 300 difference. So like I think there is like there's Logan Thomas is still in that tier, but in terms of it's almost like Andrews just has he has a way higher ceiling for this specific match.
Yeah, maybe I should rephrase that. I'm not using Logan Thomas in Cash. I should have just said that Jared Cook is basically the same price as Logan Thomas. That's all you need to know.
That's egregious in itself. Yeah.
But in fairness, Mark Andrews is almost the same price as Logan Thomas, which is just as egregious. So just play Mark Andrews this week.
Yeah, that's good advice. That's good advice.
All right. Play Mark Andrews every week.